welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and it is show number 155. Thrilled to be back here with you, live here on Facebook, live on YouTube. We added that recently, and certainly wherever you are watching or listening, great to be with you. If you are listening or watching, we'd love a positive review. It's amazing what those reviews do and what they mean to people. So a positive review on iTunes or wherever you are listening is helpful. Proud member of the Education Podcast Network, proud member of Voice Ed Radio Canada. And after today's episode, we hope to be on in New Zealand one day because we are going to meet Nathan Fave from New Zealand. And Nathan most recently was the captain and champion of the world's toughest race. I'm so excited to talk to Nathan. I think my kids might be a little more excited to meet and talk to Nathan. But Nathan was featured on a show on Amazon, and like many of you, looking to do something during the pandemic, looking to be together as a family, we watched on Amazon the world's toughest race, and we got to meet Nathan through the show, and he was the captain of the award-winning team. So we are going to talk to Nathan about perseverance and all that he went through as an adventure racer and what it means in the world of leadership and for educational leaders. So we're going to meet Nathan in a moment, and I'm grateful to him for coming on the show. We are going to lead with a few topics. Number one, I am going to start another mastermind group. I have a leadership group going on right now. It's going very well. Some of you have reached out about that, and we are going to start another one here in April. Second, I'm very excited to announce the second book is at the publisher, and it will be coming out this summer. The second book is entitled The Partnership, Surviving and Thriving, and that's going to be coming out. It's about the partnership between schools and families and how we can better work together to serve the kids. So that book is coming out. So two little announcements there before we get started. Let's roll. The opening topic is about extreme. I'm going to ask Nathan about this during his races and during his world or his life as an adventure racer. But extreme. We're in an extreme time right now in our lives, this global pandemic. And people are doing things they didn't normally do. People are in uncomfortable situations. I'm going to ask Nathan about that also. But what are some things that you are doing to be extreme in what you do? Do you push yourself beyond the limits? Do you push yourself to go above and beyond? I always like the demonstration of you ask somebody, try this. If you're an educational leader, you're watching this, ask somebody to jump up as high as they can on the wall. Jump up and mark where they, where they touch. And then put a $20 bill 2 inches above that. And I guarantee you, 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 times, they will hit that $20 bill because there's a goal and they reach to go a little higher and a little further. And there are many opportunities in our life where that happens. And Nathan, I think, has done that a lot of times in his life. He certainly did it on the world's toughest race. And let's welcome him into the program here. And I hope I'm going to pronounce his name correctly. Nathan Fave, welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No, it's nice to be here and nice to meet you.
How'd we do with the pronunciation? Did I get Fave down right?
Yeah, pretty good. I think if you were in Samoa, you might have a few confused looks, but for me, it's just fine. Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We've had a variety of guests over the few years here, Nathan. I've never had a world adventure racer on, let alone a champion and star of the Amazon show, The World's Toughest Race. So, Nathan, why adventure racing? Why put yourself into those extreme situations like I was just talking about? What is it that gets you going about that?
Well, it's probably a difficult question to answer quickly, but what draws me to adventure racing, or what has drawn me to it over a number of years, is obviously it's in a team. So if you're a person that likes working in a team, a group of people with a common goal, and I guess using all your strengths, to achieve whatever it is your team set out to do, that has appealed to me. And I guess by nature I'm just an explorer. I love being in the outdoors. I love travel and going to new places. I love seeing beautiful things in nature. And adventure racing has just been an amazing way for me to kind of travel the world, really, and see a lot of or be part of a lot of amazing places that I would never have probably got to see had I not been doing the sport that I've been doing. Oh, I love mountain biking and kayaking and hiking and doing those things. So yeah, adventure racing is a great way to combine your passion for the outdoors. Go if you enjoy traveling, being part of the team, staying fit, healthy. I guess for me, it sort of ticks a lot of boxes, and that's why I've done it for quite a long time.
Yeah. And this experience about being on the world's toughest race, did that show, being on Amazon, accessible to people here in the Northeast of the United States, did that put adventure racing on the map or bring it to more attention?
Yeah, it definitely did. Eco Challenge has been around for a number of years, back in the 90s and early 2000s, but they actually took a bit of a break, and it was actually 17 years before the Eco Challenge, the world's toughest race that we're talking about now. And historically, Eco Challenge did a lot for the sport of adventure racing in terms of just bringing it to people who wouldn't normally know about it, and they were very successful in doing that again. With the world's toughest race. Unfortunately, a lot of that momentum has kind of been put on hold at the moment because of COVID, but
Yeah.
it definitely has been amazing to see, Amazon with that production have taken our sport and our story and introduced a whole lot of more people to it. And it would be great if that serves to inspire more people to get out and do things, and if some of them trickle into adventure racing, then that's great as well.
Well, you inspired my family, and even when they're complaining now about, oh, I'm tired, or we just had a big snowstorm here, come on, let's get out and shovel. Oh, I'm tired. What would Nathan say? Nathan's still running. Nathan's still going. So you certainly inspired my group, Nathan. Was the fact that it was a TV production, did it change what the events normally look like, or was it pretty straightforward and it just happened to be a TV show as well?
Yeah, it didn't change things too much for us. So it definitely was a very polished and big TV production, but foremost, it is a race. It is a sporting competition. So essentially, there was a race going on, and it was the challenge for the filmmakers or production team to capture that on film. So, I guess the differences were that there was just a lot more cameras around than what we would normally have. So, often the world champs for adventure racing is filmed, and they'll make a 1 hour kind of sports show out of that. Eco Challenge obviously made a 10-hour show, and to a much, much higher quality. So, it wasn't a huge amount of difference for us than a typical major race, but everything was just on a much bigger scale. So rather than seeing a camera person maybe, 3 or 4 times a day, we might see them, 10 to 15 times a day, just things like that. So, but it was really just still a race for us. Like, they didn't really change much at all in terms of us just trying to get through the course as quick as we could.
And it was fascinating, and it was really well done. And your team clearly was just so above all the other groups. And I was watching the show saying, I would love to have a conversation with him about leadership. And here we are. So I know what I saw through the TV screen of leadership on your part, but tell me about your leadership on that journey, some things that you did intentionally to help you and to help your team be successful.
Yeah, I think it is very important to acknowledge that it is a team sport, and I am the captain. And, I guess in terms of sort of leadership, most of the time I would, sort of set that leadership and step into that leadership role. But my teammates are very, very skilled and experienced adventure racers themselves. And at certain times of the race, the leadership role can be quite fluid. Like someone else can sort of step into the leadership role at times. And I think as a team, while I'm the team captain, often the face of the team or the spokesperson for the team, the four of us are really peers. And, we work together extremely well, as you can probably appreciate, given what we achieved. But I guess the point I'm sort of making is that I think fellowship is really important in our team as well, so that we can whoever is in that leadership role, the others will sort of trust their judgment and go with that. But for me, my sort of, I guess my what I've learned in adventure racing and many other things that I've done in life is just calmness and composure. And then that's one of the sort of values or qualities that I really strive for as a team captain and as a leader in adventure racing, all the different things that I do. I think that the Eco Challenge, it's a sporting event. It can be really stressful. It's not only a sporting event, but it is also a TV production. So you've often got cameras on you. You often got microphones. Sometimes with you 24 hours a day. And I think for lots of reasons that there's so many different challenges that come at you as a team and as a person during that race, that you really have to respond to those things calmly, with composure, to ensure that you're actually making sensible and logical decisions as the race goes on. And I think for me, a big part of that is removing emotion from your decision making and sort of just basing it on facts and data, and just being very clear about that. And the reason for it ultimately is to save time, to allow efficiency to kind of keep moving forward through the course, because that's ultimately how you win those races, is to keep a reasonable amount of momentum. As soon as you lose momentum, I guess it's like many things in life, it can be very hard to start it again. So for me, it's very important to just continually feel like you're making progress through the course, even if you're presented with a big challenge. If you're actively trying to solve that challenge or that problem, the team atmosphere or culture is that you are still moving forward.
I'm thrilled to hear you say that. As you were writing, here's my notes here. I wrote calm and body language, and you said calm and composure.
Right.
You displayed that. No matter what happened, you stayed calm and cool. I thought you were a tremendous leader on there, and to hear you say that, but for me to be able to see that, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was hard enough to make those decisions, Nathan, but tell me about making those decisions and continuing to lead on minimal amount of rest, minimal amount of sleep.
Yeah, I think the show did some very good things, and I thought they did an excellent job of telling, the story of adventure racing. But we did actually have more sleep in that race than what most people probably than perhaps what it looks like. So I think from memory, we took nearly 7 days to finish the race. So maybe 160 hours of racing time or 170 hours, something like that. And if I was to have a guess or an estimate, I would say that we probably had about 20 hours sleep, which is a lot for an adventure race. So that would be often more than double what we would be normally used to. And the reason for that is because and they didn't really show it in the show. And I think it was wise for them not to show it, because if they show too much of the technical side of the sport, I think it would lose a lot of interest to people who don't know much about it, but it'd also get quite confusing for the audience. But they actually had to shut the course on the second night because of flooding. So our team actually had a full night's sleep on the second night of the race, which meant starting day 3, we were fully recovered, which is kind of unheard of in our sport, to kind of day 3 be feeling like it's day 1 again. And then on the night of day 3, we reached a dark zone, which means that you can't go whitewater rafting for safety reasons during the hours of darkness. Mm-hmm. So we had another full night's sleep on that night. So we had 2 nights of consecutive sleep, which meant on the morning of day 3 and again on the morning of day 4, we were I would almost say we were fully recovered again from what we had done up until that point. So, and that's very unusual for an adventure race, but it was just the way things worked out. And what it meant is that we never really suffered from a lack of sleep like we often do in those races. Yeah. But no, to answer that question anyway, is that, I think with our experience now, we know when we're kind of not making rational and sensible decisions. And often what our team will do at that time is we will actually take some sleep. And then when we wake up, we're just more clear-headed and we can make sort of decisions on what we need to do or how we're going to approach the next part of the race. But we are, I think, pretty good at just, even when you're very, very tired, just being able to kind of engage your brain on a level and go, look, I'm really tired right now, but we really need to think, really carefully about what we're doing and make sure this is the right decision and not one that is affected by a lack of sleep and things.
Well, and like you said, your calm and composure, it all led into that. Nathan, what about, you talked about teamwork and all the ups and downs. What would you say to educators now, people that are having a heck of a hard time continuing to go because of COVID, every day going, being tested, our healthcare workers, right? Our doctors, people that are on the front lines facing this global pandemic. What advice would you give them to keep going? Because you modeled that on TV and certainly in your world. What would you share about that?
Yeah, I guess first of all, I'll say that it's probably unfair of me to sort of make too much comment on the COVID situation, because we in New Zealand here, we are in a bit of a bubble. Life in New Zealand right now for us is completely normal. The only difference is that we don't we have our borders are essentially closed. So we can't really travel. But other than that, there is really no significant change for us. So I don't feel that comfortable about making sort of suggestions.
And that's fair. Let's take COVID out of it, right? Let's take COVID out of it. The motivation to keep going when you don't feel like it.
Yeah, I think, I guess in a race, like an adventure race, is that, again, they are very, very challenging events. But the reality is that they are over in less than a week. So So I think in terms of a mindset, even in the hardest sort of time, you kind of know that the end is actually in sight. So no matter how much you're suffering in an event, how much discomfort and how much you don't actually want to be there, you can remind yourself that, this time next week, this will be over, or there is an end in sight. So, that's one thing about event racing. And I'm aware that, COVID and other things, other issues that people are faced with have longer time frames, but I don't necessarily think it changes all that much. Like, I've been through other challenges in my life that have clearly been a lot longer than 1 week. And one thing I often think about, and this is something I guess expanding on what I've learned from event racing, is that there is a point in the future where whatever the challenge is, you would have actually moved through it. And I think you just have to trust that, and there'll be a point in the future where you'll look back on whatever the challenge is and go, oh, that's right. I remember that. And I think in terms of COVID, that's what I would probably be saying to people is that, and it may seem like a lifetime away now, but it won't in the future. In a couple of years' time, people will be sitting around going, oh, you remember, 2020, 2021, that was a crazy time. And they'll have a bit of a laugh about it and say a few things and then move on to the next thing they want to talk about. Like, I guess over time, like things diminish. And so I think having that sort of trust that there's a point in the future where things will get back to a level of normality, or, the hard time will pass. So I think if you sort of bring that back to the present, you just have to go, well, okay, things aren't great right now. And this is the same in event racing, but what can we do like right now that is actually helpful? What is going to be helpful, and identify what is going to be unhelpful, and just try and do the helpful things. And really that's something we do a lot in an adventure race is that, for our team, whenever we get thrown the things that don't go to plan, the question that we will always ask ourselves as team members before we say something or before we act in a way is the question is, how is this helpful right now? So what am I about to say? What am I about to suggest? What am I about to do? How is this actually going to be helpful to the issue that we have right now? And if it is helpful, great, then that's a positive thing. But if it's unhelpful, then it's probably, it's not going to sort of work towards what we're trying to achieve. So, yeah.
And is that something, Nathan? Sorry to jump in.
No, go. Yeah.
Is that something you work together as a team in like a pre-meeting that you talk with everybody about that concept?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's sort of happened. I guess our team, we have raced together for a long time. Like the core team has been together for 6 or 7 years, but we have history much longer back than that. And yeah, we used to sit down before a race and talk about team culture and expectations and what we want our team to look like when we're out on course, what we want other teams, to model what we want other teams to see us as, and different people. So we've had a lot of those discussions, and really now we don't really need to. Like, the team culture is kind of set, and I think people are very good at just switching into that, these days. But we did invest a lot of time, years ago in sort of setting up a framework, and that allowed us to bring out the best in each other, and allowed us to essentially, race to our capability, or our capacity is probably a better word as well.
Yeah. And that's really a great teamwork kind of concept that can go into families. It could go into education. About that, is what I'm about to say or do going to be helpful? I know my wife will like that with my kids and me in the kitchen. Get out of the way.
Yeah, that's right. And I think just more in a general life, like I think often people will make comments, criticisms or comments, and they're not really helpful comments. And yeah, I think if people are aware of kind of what they're saying sometimes, and then stop and think about, is this actually worth saying, and then think about what it is they're actually trying to achieve by saying that thing or doing that thing, that can be a trigger to sort of change behavior in a positive way, I think.
Absolutely. Nathan, in addition to the adventure racing, you've done some writing, you wrote a book, and you also do some speaking. Tell me, like, what is it when a group hires you to come speak? Tell me about the aspects that you talk about. How do you come up with your topics?
Oh yes, I do some speaking. To be honest, I don't go looking for speaking opportunities. They just come to me. If people sort of find me and want me to come and do a presentation or a talk, I'm more than happy to. But it's not something I kind of go out there and chase. And it depends a bit. I think probably over my life, my speaking kind of time, I've spoken to youth more than I have to adults. So to youth, I think I'll often theme things a bit more around. Obviously, you need to make it interesting and entertaining. So I'll often speak about event racing because people just find that quite an interesting thing to know more about what it is that's involved in event racing. If I'm speaking to youth, a lot of it is around just following your passions and just trying to stay engaged in what you're doing and I guess not limiting your beliefs and not let other people put limitations on you. And then I guess more of the adult stuff tends to be more corporate type things, and they're normally either leadership or teamwork type kind of subjects. And nearly all the talks I'll spend probably half the time just talking about adventure racing and telling some interesting stories and showing some imagery and I think people can learn a lot from that. Even youth, that I talk to, that they can make those connections themselves. They can watch something, they can learn, they can hear about adventure racing, watch some adventure racing stuff, see some adventure racing photos, and I don't need to kind of try and make those connections for them. They'll figure them out themselves normally.
Sure. And I find it fascinating. And again, what you displayed on the TV, I can see why people would want you to talk. Nathan, what would you say? Is it more physical training or mental training to be successful?
I think it's a good question. I think the two are so closely linked that that they just become one really. And because I think to really do training that you need to do to sort of win an eco challenge or just finish an eco challenge is probably a fairer comment. Is that requires a huge amount of mental tenacity and motivation and commitment. Like the body is not going to go training without the mind kind of controlling that and making it happen. And then when you're out there training, I mean, some days training is easy. You just go out there and you just, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Other days, it takes a lot of discipline to get out there and do the work that's required. So I think just by naturally training for an event of that scale, or for any event people are training for really, there is a mental component to that as well. So come the race, when you're actually in the thick of an event like Eco Challenge or in the midst of whatever challenge it is people have set themselves to do, you obviously need to be physically capable of doing what it is that you've set out to do in order to achieve it. But there's a huge mental component that is required as well, because it's physically, most teams that pull out of the race are physically fine, but mentally they've just had enough for whatever reason. They've just said, look, I'd rather be somewhere else right now, or this was harder than I expected. But they'll still walk off the course. It's not like they're physically finished or anything. They've just chosen chosen a different option. So yeah, I think it goes hand in hand. And the flip side of that would be that, there would be perhaps some people that might go there that physically they were never going to finish Eco Challenge in the time frame required. They've got the mental tenacity, no problem, but they don't have the physical side of it to kind of allow that to happen. So I think the two are very, very closely linked.
Okay, excellent answer. Nathan, how do you turn it off? Here you come off this extreme, use the word tenacity. You're going. How do you turn that off in your personal life to know, okay, it's enough if I just do this, right? You don't have to keep going. Is that something you could turn on and off?
Yeah, I think so. I think it comes with time and probably a little bit of wisdom and maturity. When I was younger, I've done a lot of racing, and I've been an athlete for 30 years or so, and I would say through my 20s, I probably did struggle to turn it off. But I think as you get older and circumstances change, and you have children, and life becomes a bit more serious, and you have a business, and it increases your perspective on things, and then I think So fast forward, I guess when I was in my 20s, my sport and my racing and my training, that's all that life was about for me, and that was it. Whereas now, I can go away and do a race, and that's amazing. I feel very, very privileged to be able to do that. But then I come home and, I've got work stuff. I've got a property that needs maintenance. I've got kids that want to do stuff. I've got a wife that wants to spend time with me, and likewise me with her. And so I think you just through time, you just go, well, yep, this is one of the things I do, but I've got all these other things I do as well. And I think most, mature athletes and sports people are pretty good now, just balancing things out. It's just it seems to me like it's a bit of a natural sort of, progression. And probably the trick is having other things in your life that you're equally passionate about, and things that are perhaps as meaningful or ideally more meaningful than your sporting kind of hobbies.
You're a wise man, Nathan. You're a wise man. Again, excellent answer. We joke here with me, a lot of Marana, that I'm going a lot, and like you said, you learn, you get a little older, a little wiser, and you learn to tone it down. But that second passion, the other interests, is a great point. Nathan, tell me, you're a lifetime away. You're a day away time-wise, and a lifetime away world-wise. I know you. If I ask you a question about New Zealand, you could probably talk for a week or more. But give me a glimpse into life in New Zealand. You see the ocean, you see all the beautiful photos. Give us a glimpse into the life there.
Yeah, well, I guess it's like any country in that, the reality is that even within New Zealand, there's many different ways people are living here, and the good and the bad. We're not immune from any of the issues that all countries are faced with. We have, well, to be fair, when I say that, I mean developed countries. We are a very privileged country, but within our society, there's lots and lots of stuff that needs improving. And, with drugs, alcohol, crime, abuse, we have all those issues here in New Zealand. It's not like we're this kind of sort of utopia of just adventure and fresh mountain kind of scenes of and things. But, where I live, it probably is a little bit like that. It is a bit of a bubble of positivity and health and wellness. And I just feel incredibly lucky to have to be able to live in the environment that I do. So New Zealand is made up of two islands. They're not very creatively named. One is called the North Island, and one is called the South. and and I think that actually the Maori people, I think, had much more interesting names than Europeans. But that aside, most of the population is in the North Island. So there's 5 million people here, but 4 million people live in the North Island and 1 million in the South. And I live in the South Island. The South Island is basically a mountain range. The whole South Island is the Southern Alps. So we have a very spectacular mountain range that runs the length of the island. And then either side of that is just an incredible array of river valleys, lakes, mountain sort of conditions as the mountains essentially kind of make their way or drop to the ocean. So most people, I would say a big percentage of people who live in the South Island live in the South Island for outdoor recreation purposes. So they ski in the winter, they do ocean sports in the summer, they do a lot of trekking, hiking, climbing, mountain biking. Most people in the South Island have chosen to live in this island because of the outdoor opportunities. We have, lots and lots of national parks and kind of protected areas. So it is just an incredible place if you are into spending time in nature and getting away. It's very easy to get away from people and find privacy and solitude if that's what you seek.
Sounds beautiful, and again, you putting your country on the map, and really just again, you were a great representation on that show. And to hear you now, again, modeling about being an outdoorsman and all that can be, kudos to you. Nathan, we're coming down the stretch of this race here. This was one of your shortest ones, but was there something else that you wanted to share, something that I didn't ask you? And again, in the realms of leadership or trying to help people through this time, something that, maybe I didn't ask you?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think. Well, maybe one thing I'll probably add is that, I guess a lot of people look at Eco Challenge and there's a glamorous side to the race that, you're obviously you're in Fiji and you're doing all these amazing things, but there's also a side that they kind of show in the show where there is actually sort of quite a bit of suffering and discomfort. And people often ask me why you're attracted to adventure racing when it's clearly quite a hard sport. And my standard answer for that is that, I think most people in the developed world now, the life is too comfortable. And I don't think, in a life of real comfort that all our needs are actually being met. Like I actually really truly believe that, that as a species, as humans, we do need it. We do need a certain amount of kind of risk and fear and discomfort, and because it wasn't that long ago throughout history when that stuff was an everyday part of life, and now life is pretty much geared around trying to be as comfortable as you can all the time, which I think is great. Like I celebrate that. Like I love the fact that we've got shelter and comfortable beds and a constant supply of food. But I do think that, if that's all you have, then I think what my sort of observation is that people start sort of manifesting kind of things in their life because they're actually missing out on kind of a big part of things. And it really is just sort of plain old sort of suffering. And I actually think that people need to kind of, well, not need, but I really encourage people to sort of see the benefits of actually going out and stressing their bodies, like go training and go out in the rain and go out and be uncomfortable and push yourself and stress your body physically. Because if you're not doing that, I think people end up with a lot of pent up sort of energy in that space. And then I think it often sort of transpires sort of emotionally. And I don't know I can't really speak for New Zealand, but we're seeing a real increase here in New Zealand of kind of emotional stress and sort of, depression related kind of issues and things. And I think that a lot of that can be addressed by people going out and physically kind of stressing themselves and putting in, just going running and pushing themselves, or biking or hiking or whatever it is. And so, I think going back to my original point is that people often say to me, "Oh, I don't know how you do that. There's so much sort of, going out there and suffering like that." And I think if you think suffering is a bad thing, then sure, you don't want to go adventure racing. But I guess philosophically, is I actually think that that actually a little bit of suffering and discomfort is actually a good thing, and that's part of the reason why I think we get out and train for adventure racing and do those sports, because I don't know, for me, I find more balance if we can find, work it like that.
You've used that word a few times, balance, and that was very well said. I agree with you, and that was very well said, Nathan. So thank you for sharing that. Let's get to rapid fire, Nathan. I can see the end of the race in sight here. These are quick answers. The first thing that comes to your mind here. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. He's going to get to the finish line here. Last book you read?
Well, I'm reading a series at the moment. It's a thriller series, an investigative detective. His name's Will Trent. So I think I'm up to about book 4 in the series. So I do a lot of reading. So and I can read all sorts of genres and topics. But that's what I'm reading right now.
We'll be getting this to you soon, Nathan. It might take a little bit to get there, but I'll get it in the mail to you, I promise. Last movie you saw?
I don't watch many movies, to be honest, but the last movie I saw was with my youngest daughter, and that was Mulan.
There was some extreme, right? There was some extreme in there.
Yeah, no, it's a great film. I loved it. Yeah.
It really was. Me too. Excellent. Yeah. You've traveled all over the world. You've seen so many beautiful places. Favorite place to travel?
Oh, very tricky question. The place that always comes to mind first in terms of traveling for me would be Japan. I really love traveling to Japan. I like the culture. I enjoy the food, and the outdoor adventure opportunities in Japan are amazing. And historically, I think they have some very sort of great philosophies and values and wisdom that I find the Japanese culture very, very, very interesting and inspiring.
Beautiful. You've shared a lot of passions, things that you believe in and strive for. What is something that gets under your skin? What is something that really bothers you?
The thing that frustrates me the most in life, and I always need to work on this, but it's actually inefficiency. And wherever I am, no matter what it is, if I see something that is just really inefficient, I just get frustrated about it, especially if I'm held up by it. If I'm in a queue somewhere and I'm going, this is just crazy. I can't believe that this is the system that I've got going. And I do need to work on that. I need to learn more patience and not get so hung up on being kind of so intensely focused on efficiency all the time.
I'm with you with that. Sitting in a line. Who designed this? Where is this person?
Yeah.
I hear you on that.
Yeah.
When you're racing, and you see something, I know this is going to be a big challenge. When some of those things on the show is like, how do you know when something's going to be? That's going to be challenging.
Oh, yeah. I guess one of the things in adventure racing which kind of really throws, the most common time when myself and my team have that is usually weather dependent, and it can be weather or time. So we might have like a really tricky stage in the race. So we know that on midway through this race, we're going to have to go up through this mountain pass. And then as we get closer to that mountain pass, if the weather kind of comes in, we go, man, this is not a good sign. If we see some clouds, we go, whatever it is, we go, this is going to be epic with this weather coming in. Or the other one is time. So, in adventure racing, there's a stage. One of the things that we can do, like whether it be stand-up paddleboarding across a lake or kayaking across an ocean, it can change dramatically whether we do it at nighttime or daytime. And when we get the course before we've even started, we might actually identify a stage and go, man, this stage is either going to be amazing or it's going to be an absolute nightmare, depending on whether we hit this in daytime or nighttime. And often we won't know until we actually get there. So yeah, I think for us, and in the context of the sport, it's it can be like, oh, this is not good, the weather, or this is going to be hard, because we know now that we're going to be doing this, through the darkness hours.
And in the show, I'm sure you remember that you got caught up in the cold and you guys were freezing when you got to that rescue tent there.
Yeah, exactly. And we were some of the probably least affected by that.
Yeah, that was certainly rough. Nathan, you're not getting any younger.
Huh.
When this is all over and you walk away from this, what do you hope they say about you?
Oh, yeah, I guess for me, I just hope that within the sport, that the legacy that I leave behind is, or the things that people remember me about it. And it's probably, to be fair, it's probably mainly the other top teams, because we're the ones that kind of know each other and race against each other regularly in different countries. And I'd like to think that people just remember me as just being like a really fair, respectful kind of competitor. I might love to get out there and race hard, but for me, it's important to maintain, healthy relationships and to always be fair and respect the rules and, play fair, race hard, but by the end of the day, know that it is just a sporting event. And like it's not worth, just, it's not, you don't want to take it too seriously. There's other things in life that are more important.
Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life?
There's probably quite a few, but the one that I still get a real big kick out of is I'm a big coffee drinker and I spend a lot of time in the outdoors. And about 10 years ago, I managed to buy, I saw this plastic coffee filter device where basically in the mountains, all you need to carry is this little plastic cone and put a filter paper in it and put it on your cup and then boil water, and you get this amazing strong coffee. And it was $20 for this plastic filter. It's got lots of cracks in it now, but it still works. But for me, it's been the most amazing purchase. It was like, whenever I have coffee in the mountains, which is quite regularly, I just got this little $20 coffee thing, and it's just like, man, this has just changed my life.
Beautiful. Best outdoor survival tip?
I think for me, there's lots of things, but for me, it's really, I reckon a map is the biggest thing. Like for me, when I'm in the mountains, the only times when I've really been worried about things is when we've been without a map and things have started to go wrong, but I haven't really known where we were exactly and what was around us. Whenever I've got a map and obviously know how to use it, I feel way more comfortable about things. So yeah, I think for me, having a map is a really important part of maybe not so much survival, but in terms of preventing kind of things from escalating out of control when you're in the wild.
And several of those teams on the show did make big mistakes. They couldn't get the map right. So
yeah.
You saw that. Nathan, what's next for you? Right, you mentioned about this, and again, you mentioned about us. You have a property. You're getting into the dry foods. What's next for you?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think event racing, a combination of my age, combination of my teammates. They've all got young children now. COVID. How that's affecting the world. I'm not sure how much more event racing will do internationally. There's definitely a shift there, and that's okay. I've got 3 teenage children now who are all growing up. So families always is going to be a big focus, I guess, going forward. Remains a big focus going forward. We have a freeze dry food business and events company. I think for me, it's just life, really, just the things that that I enjoy doing. I mean, a big part of what I strive for is a lot of freedom and flexibility in what I do. So just continuing on that journey, and just trying to, I think as long as I'm sort of go to bed at night and go to sleep, excited about the next day because I'm going to be doing the things I enjoy doing, then I don't want to tamper too much with that model.
Amen. Nathan, this was fantastic. Really an honor to talk with you. I like to end with a quote. I'm a quote guy. Do you have a favorite quote you'd like to share?
There's a lot of quotes that come to mind, but I think one that I really like and I share a lot with other people, and it's not my quote, it's just one that I sort of adopted. But what's interesting about this quote is that it kind of encompassed how I'd really been living my life for probably 20 years before I even read this quote. And basically the quote is don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And I think for me that part of the reason why I have actually managed to get quite good at adventure racing is that growing up, right throughout my life, anything that I've tried, I mean, whenever you try something, you're never actually very good at it. But I have always been determined to whatever I've tried to get good at it. And so, I guess when I heard that quote, I look back on my life and I go, yeah, pretty much for the last 20 years, I've just perfected all the things that I've tried. So whatever it is I wanted to do, I just invested the time and got good at it. I was going, I don't have a problem with this being difficult. All I need to do is master it. And then, so I almost embrace the challenge of learning something. And I guess what that, now that I'm sort of nearly 50 years old, you end up with this sort of skill set that you've just evolved over sort of 30, 40 years of just learning new things and getting better at them. But added to that is I think there's a huge benefit for people of just being on that journey of self-improvement. Like I think it ticks a lot of boxes just in how we operate as people. So I think if you're learning something, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be sport, it could be music or it could be study or I don't know, anything really. But I think if you have something in your life that you're kind of learning and you're getting better at it, it's extremely satisfying. And because you see the improvement and you feel that improvement. And I think that kind of feeling that you get or that state that you're in actually transpires into other areas of your life. So I've always been a real big advocate of always trying to have something going on in my life that is new, that is challenging, that I'm learning. And because I do believe that if you are on that road of improving yourself, whatever it may be, just learning a new skill, that it's extremely satisfying and just a nice sort of thing to focus on. And that quote, I think, sort of lends itself really well to that. That's if something's hard, that's great. Just get better at it. Just keep working and you'll master it. It's not hard to stop you from trying. It's hard to kind of bring out the skills and qualities that are within you.
Amen, Nathan. This was great. Guys, if you were watching, Nathan's website is here on the bottom. It's nathanfave.com or .nz, not .com, .nz. Yeah. Nathan, this was fantastic. We do have to get rolling.
Sure.
We've reached our goal here with the show, but I really appreciate you coming on. And I knew there would be so many things that translate to our audience, and you exceeded that. But you truly are a champion and a great representation of your country as well as your sport. So we appreciate you.
Right. Thank you. No, I appreciate it, Andrew. It's good chatting.
Absolutely. Stay on the line a second, Nathan. This is show number 155. If I can help you at all in any way, reach out on Twitter. I'm at Andrew Murata21. And certainly, again, nathanfave.nz. I certainly encourage you to watch the show. And again, get in touch with Nathan about speaking and etc. I'm going to check out his book as well. Nathan, thanks so much. Stay on the line, all right? All right.
Yes, thank you.